You are listening to The Standards Desk of News from The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards with Matthew Childs and Cindy Parakill.
The Standards Desk of News is where we take a brief look at some of the news about standards and standards in the news. You can find the links to some of the featured stories in the show notes. And the show notes are also where you can find details of our socials and all of the other ways to get in touch with us here on The Standard Show. Hey, Cindy Parakill.
Hey, Matthew Childs.
Well, shall we have the Standards Desk of News?
Yep, let's do it.
Yes, this is the Standards Desk of News. News about standards and standards in the news. And this time we are covering stories from February 2024.
And we start with standards supporting UK AI regulation.
Yes, this is the news that the UK government has published its response to its AI regulation white paper consultation. And in that response, there is important new guidance for regulators, guidance that references standards. The guidance sets out the considerations that regulators may wish to have when developing tools to implement the UK's 5 pro-innovation AI regulatory principles: safety, security and robustness, appropriate transparency and explainability, fairness, accountability and governance, and contestability and redress. The guidance states that a regulator may wish to cite horizontal AI standards produced by organisations like BSI and ISO, so that AI developments align with all 5 principles. Standards such as ISO IEC 42001, the AI Management System Standard, which guides organisations to continuously improve and iterate responsible processes for AI systems. And ISO IEC 22989, Artificial Intelligence, Concepts and Terminology. Alongside these, the guidance also references what it refers to as technical standards, such as ISO IEC 24027, Mitigating Bias in AI Systems, and ISO IEC 17866, Best Practice Guidance for Mitigating Ethical and Societal Concerns in AI. In total, 15 standards are referenced in the new guidance. European Commission Standardisation Programme.
The European Commission has published its annual Union Work Programme on European standardization, which sets out its priorities on all activities related to standards in 2024. The Commission highlights 8 standards priorities: quantum, critical raw materials, the data economy, digital identity, heat pumps, cybersecurity, hydrogen, and electric vehicles charging infrastructure. The AUWP was informed and advised by the High-Level Forum on European Standardization, a multi-stakeholder group chaired by the Commissioner Thierry Breton. The High-Level Forum is an expert group of the European Commission. It was set up in January 2023 as requested by the EU Strategy on Standardization. The purpose of the forum is to identify standardization priorities in support of EU policies and legislation, and to discuss horizontal issues such as international leadership and education and skills in a multi-stakeholder setting. Research report on the role of standards in global trade.
This is a story that has come via Nicolas Fleury, former Secretary General of ISO, and we should say thank you to him for it. And it's about a recent report by management consultancy McKinsey called Geopolitics and the Geometry of Global Trade. The report argues that business leaders must position their organisations to face the uncertainties linked to geopolitics, and therefore to the future of global trade, which the report states is supported by a large variety of standards. The report goes on to say that to navigate the prevailing business challenges and context, businesses need to understand the standards ecosystem and its dynamic. They also need to integrate standards at the core of their strategies, and within the scenarios they will develop to allow them to anticipate and adapt to geopolitical and global changes, and to the evolution of global trade. And finally, standards power Aston Martin Formula One's sustainability success.
Aston Martin Aramco has become the first Formula One motor racing team to certify to ISO 50001, the global standard for implementing an energy management system. It offers organizations a framework to enhance their energy performance. Aston Martin Aramco's goal for ISO 50001 is to increase energy efficiency and reduce energy consumption and associated costs. An energy management system controls the energy consumption at the team's technology campus at Silverstone and is designed to ensure that there is a systematic approach to continuously improving energy performance. The F1 team embraced certification to achieve key climate action milestones and embed sustainable practices. Certification to ISO 14001 for environmental management has already helped them secure 3-star accreditation to the FIA's Environmental Accreditation Program and improve management in Scope 3 emissions and logistics operations. Scope 3 emissions are the result of activities from assets not owned or controlled by the reporting organization, but that the organization indirectly affects in its value chain.
Well done to them, and certainly puts Aston Martin in pole position there, Cindy Parakill.
Yes, indeed, Matthew Charles. A sustainability success driven by standards.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Now, I'm going to outdo you now. I've got another one. Now, before we bring down the checkered flag on the news, there is a bit of and finally. February saw the publication of the 3rd episode of the standard show Latino America. Latino America is all you've come to expect from the standard show, but with a special Latin American focus and flavour. And of course, language too. Episodes are in Spanish and Portuguese and are hosted by Andrea Sandy. In this 3rd episode, Andy looked at the story of how a master's project became an international standard for improving quality in healthcare. Check it out in the feed. Now, a reminder that you can find links to some of the stories we have featured today in the show notes. And the show notes are also where you can find details of our socials and all of the other ways to get in touch with us here on The Standard Show. Well, thank you, Cindy Parakill.
Thank you, Matthew Charles.
For February 2024, that's the Standard's Desk of News.
You have been listening to The Standard's Desk of News from The Standard Show, the podcast that brings you the stories behind the standards.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.